This is written practice help for Saxon Course 2, Lesson 91. The first problem you're going to do today is problem number 4. You are expected to draw a ratio box for this one, and it says the ratio of workers to supervisors at the job site was 3 to 5. So it's workers to supervisors, and then 3 to 5, so you have to do it in the same order. Of the 120 workers and supervisors, that means both workers and supervisors, there's 120 of them, how many were workers? So X goes right here. Now to find your total ratio, all you need to do is add 3 and 5 together, and that's going to give you 8. And then we don't need to know how many supervisors, so don't worry about that box. You're going to set up a proportion. So we're going to do 3 over 8 equals X over 120. Then you're going to cross multiply and solve. Go ahead and pause the video, solve the rest of the problem on your paper, and then when you're done, go on to number 5, or to the next one, which is number 6. Alright, so number 6. Alright, the next problem is number 6. It says a software program for guitar lessons is on sale for 80% of the original price of $54. What is the sale price? Again, you're going to use a ratio box for this, and we're looking at percent. It's on sale for 80% of the original price. So your new sale price is 80% of the original price. Remember, your original price is 100%. The original price was $54, so that's your actual count. And it says what was the sale price. So they want to know what the sale price is here. Your savings would be 20%, and we don't really need to know the actual count of the savings because we just need to know the new price. So we're going to set up a proportion, which is 100 over 80 equals 54 over X. Then you're going to cross multiply and finish the problem. Go ahead and pause your video and finish the problem. And when you're ready, go on to the next problem. Alright, the next problem is looking at unit multipliers. It is expected that you write out the unit multipliers for these. So please make sure you're doing that. It says use 2 unit multipliers to convert 3,600 inches squared to square feet. You have 12 inches in 1 foot, and that's important information for you to know and to remember for problems like these and any other problem involving measurement. We're starting off with 3,600 inches, and it's inches squared, so I have another inches right next to it, because inches times inches. And then I have 1 foot is 12 inches, and it wants to do to square feet, so we need 2 of those. So our inches can be crossed off, which gives us 3,600, and we have 2 feet, so that's feet squared, over 12 times 12, and you don't need to, you can do times 1 times 1, but really you just need 12 times 12 is 144. Then you're going to divide, so you need to do 3,600 divided by 144, and then that will give you your answer, and you're going to write your answer with feet squared. Go ahead and pause the video, finish this problem, and when you're done, you'll go to the next problem. Alright, the next problem is number 10. It says, read the statement, then answer the questions that follow. 3/4 of the exhibits at the science fair were about physical science. There were 60 physical science exhibits. Alright, so this one, I automatically saw that they were talking about a fraction 3/4, and it made me think of a diagram. So 3/4 of those exhibits, right here, 3/4 were physical science. And so 1/4 was not physical science. And 60 of these physical science were in that 3/4. So you have 3 boxes that you have to split 60 into. So you're going to think, what is 60 divided by 3? And you should come up with, good, 20. So you're going to add 20 into those 3 boxes, and if those 3 boxes are 20, what's the last box? Good, you should have come up with 20. Then you're going to answer the question, how many exhibits were at the science fair? Well, this whole diagram is the science fair, so how many total do you have in those boxes? That's going to be your answer to A. So A is your total. Don't write total on your paper. Tell me what the total is. B, it says, what percent of the exhibits were not about physical science? Well, we know that 1/4 were not physical, so what percent is 1/4? That's going to be B. Go ahead and finish those problems, and you're going to pause your video, and when you're done, you'll go to the next problem. Number 11. Number 11 says, evaluate x minus y minus xy if x is -3 and y equals -2. And so remember, we're going to replace our x and y with our new numbers. So if x is -3, you're going to write -3 in parentheses every time you come up to an x. And if y is -2, we're going to write a -2 in parentheses every time we see a y. So we end up with -3 minus -2 equals, minus -3 times -2. X minus y minus xy. Then we're going to solve, and remember we're going to multiply first. So we're going to do -3 times -2. A negative times a negative is a positive. So -3 times -2 is +6. And we're going to rewrite the whole problem, -3 minus -2 minus 6. Now, do we like to have subtraction problems in negative numbers? That's right, we do not like that. Instead, we're going to use algebraic addition and change these to addition problems. So we're going to change the subtraction to addition, which means we have to do the opposite of -2, which is +2. Excellent. And we're going to change this subtraction to addition. We're going to do the opposite of +6, which is -6. Then we're going to move from left to right and finish the problem. Go ahead and pause the video, finish that problem, and when you're done, go to the next problem. Number 13 asks you to do several things. You have A through D, so I expect to see A through D on your paper. A says classify the quadrilateral. That means tell us what the name of this quadrilateral is. Looking at it, it has this diagonal line right here, a slanted line. And with that slanted line, that means it's not a square and it's not a rectangle because it doesn't have 90-degree angles. It's not a parallelogram because it only has one set of parallel sides. So because of that, that leaves us with one choice. That's that. Remember that great ant from when we did that in class? That is, it is a trapezoid. Excellent. Then it says find the perimeter of the figure. So perimeter is adding up all the sides. That's how we find it. But what is perimeter, the definition? Good, it's the distance around the shape. So I want you to add up all the sides and find the perimeter. Find the area of the printer. I can speak. Find the area of the figure. So area of the figure, you have to remember that A for a trapezoid is 1/2 of the base, first base, base 1, plus base 2 times the height. And the height, remember, is the one with the perpendicular lines. Those, you see the little squares there, so that helps you know the height. You're going to use that formula to go ahead and finish letter C. All right, the last one. And remember to pause your video so that you have time to finish these. And so if you need to pause, go ahead and pause now. And let's look at D. It says the sum of the measures of the interior angles of a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. So I'm going to make this a little bigger, maybe. and it tells us that this angle right here, this acute angle, is 75 degrees. And this angle right here, what does the square tell us? Good, it tells us it's 90 degrees. We have another square, which is 90 degrees. And then we have this angle that we don't know. And they tell us if you add up all of the angles, which would be that didn't work as well as I hoped. Which would be 90 plus 90 plus 75 plus the missing one, not times the missing one, plus the missing one, is going to equal 360 degrees. And you're going to go ahead and solve that problem and figure out what your final answer is. And I apologize that that just kind of ended up on the page. So that will be what you do for D. And this is C, and B is your perimeter. All right, number 16 is your next one. It says multiply. Write the product in scientific notation. I see a lot of people turning this in and they're not showing me all their work. I should see on your paper that you did 2 4/10 times 5 in one parenthesis, and 10 to the power of -4 times 10 to the power of -7 in the other parenthesis. Then I should see on the side where you did 2 4/10 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. You have one number after the decimal there, so you need 1 in your answer. So that ends up being 12 times 10. -4 plus -7 is -11. Only one problem. Do I like to have 12 there? Good. No, I only want one digit that's a whole number. So we're going to actually make it 1 2/10. So that means I moved my decimal over one place to the left, which means I have to take 1 off, and I end up with 10 to the power of -10. So I expect to see all of these steps. Tomorrow's lesson, I'm not going to show you all the steps. You're going to show me all the steps. And you will see this on your next test, so make sure that you're practicing it correctly. All right, the next one says 1 yard equals 3 feet. The table at the right shows 3 pairs of equivalent measures. So right here we see 3 pairs of equivalent measures. Plot these points on a coordinate graph using yards for the horizontal axis and feet for the vertical axis. Then draw a ray through the points to show all pairs of equivalent measures. Does the graph show direct variation? Explain your answer. All right, so I'm going to move this over so I can graph, erase my arrow, and I'm going to put 1, I'm going to do the yards as X and the feet as Y, because remember X is first, then Y. So I'm going to go over 1 and up 3, then over 2 and up 6, and then over 3 and up 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I need to find a straight edge. I need to find a straight edge and draw a line through my points. Try that again. And it wants to know if it shows direct variation. It says draw a ray through the points to show all pairs of equivalent measures. Now I gotta say, my points start here, don't they? So you have to think, is this direct variation? We have to think what direct variation is. So looking back at our last investigation, it says the graph of a function with a direct variation is a straight line. Well, that would be, yes, it's a straight line. It slopes upward to the right, yes, and it must include the origin. Now I'm thinking about this. If I had 0 yards, how many feet would I have? Well, 0 times 3 is 0. So can we include the origin? I hope you said yes. So we're going to go ahead and finish our line all the way to the origin. Did not mean to hit red. Okay. Finish our line all the way to the origin. Because we could include that, it works with our function table, and therefore, is it direct variation? The answer is yes. Make sure you write the answer to that question, and you also show me the graph. Now, if you want to use the graph paper that I gave you, the website, you can still do that. Just make sure you take a screenshot and include that with your work. Number 20, refer to the figure below to answer A through D. So A says, what is the measure of x? Well, x is right here in the middle. And we have to think, well, what do we know about a triangle? We know triangles, the interior angles of triangles add up to 180 degrees. All right, so if I have a 30-degree angle right here, and I have a box here which tells me it's 90-degree angle, I'm going to do 90 plus 30 plus the x equals 180. Then I'm going to solve that problem and find my final answer. That's for x. Go ahead and pause and find that. All right, let's look at y. What is the measure of angle y? Well, y is right there. Wish I would stop doing that. Y is right here in the middle. And we know that y and x are right there across from each other like that. And so that means y is going to be the same as x. So what you got for x, you're going to write for y. Then we have angle A right here. I think my pen is getting tired today. So the measure of angle y is going to be 65, which is B. Did I say angle y? Angle A. So angle B, which is 65, plus, all right, so angle y, which you know is the same as angle x, plus 65 plus angle A is still going to equal 180 because it is a triangle. So what you got for your answer for x here, you're going to put for x right here instead of x, and you're going to find the measure of angle A. Pause your video and go ahead and do that. Now the question is, are these two triangles similar? Similar means all the angles are the same. Okay, so make sure that you discover if all those angles are the same or not. Once you know, you're going to write yes or no, and then you're going to tell me why or why not for D. Pause your video and write it. All right, we're going to go to the next problem. It says add algebraically negative 3x minus 3 minus x minus 1, and I'm just going to write that down here. And I'm going to combine my x's and my whole numbers. So that's going to give me negative 3x minus x minus 3 minus 1. And negative 3x is minus x is the same as negative 3 plus 1, plus negative x, plus a negative x. So that means I have a total of negative 4 x's. And then I'm going to subtract 3 minus negative 3 and negative 1. I'm going to put that together. That's the same as negative 3 plus negative 1. So I'm going to end up with minus 4 here. So negative 4x minus 4. That's adding. Multiplying is similar, and remember, tomorrow I'm not going to show all these steps. I expect you to be able to show me those steps on your own tomorrow. All right, I'm going to erase that. And B, we're going to, again, combine everything. So we have negative 3x, and we have a negative x. Those are all the x's that we have. And then negative 3 times negative 1. Well, remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. And how many x's do I end up with? I actually end up with x squared. So I've got positive 3, because negative times a negative, negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. And then x times x is x squared. And you don't have to write positive 3. And then you're going to do times, I'll put that in parentheses, negative 3 times negative 1 is a positive 3. We're going to take our 3's and put them together, and so we're going to do 3 times 3, which is 9, and leave your x squared right there. So your final answer is 9x squared. See how I showed the different steps, and I actually wrote the problem down? That's important to get credit for doing your work. All right, our last problem is number 30. We're going to do similar things, but we're going to remember our PEMDAS in doing this. So we have negative 3 minus negative 4 times positive 5. So we have to do our multiplication first. Oh, and that's over negative 2. So negative 4 times positive 5 is going to be 4 times 5, which is 20, and keep your negative. So negative times a positive is a negative. So we end up with negative 20. So negative 3 minus negative 20, remember, we don't want to leave it as a subtraction. We want to change that to addition, which means we have to do the opposite of negative 20, which is positive 20. So negative 3 plus positive 20 is 17 over negative 2. See how we have this negative right here? We have to keep that for our final answer. So you're going to tell me how many times 2 will go into 17, and then you're going to give me the remainder as a fraction and show me your final answer. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, so 2 goes into 17 8 times with 1 as a remainder. So our final answer is negative 8.5. Okay, so if you didn't get that right, go ahead and fix that and show me your work as you did it. Okay, let's look at the other one. This one is negative 3 times positive 4 minus 5 times positive 6 minus 7. So we have a negative times a positive, which is going to give us a negative. So 3 times 4 is 12. And then we have negative, that's negative 5. Or you could have looked at it like this, plus negative 5 like that. So we have plus negative 5 times positive 6. Negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 6 is 30. Minus, again, we don't like to have subtraction, so we're going to add plus negative 7. And then we're going to move left to right and finish this problem. And once you're done with this problem, you're ready to take pictures and submit.